On today's episode of the Midlife Mentors, we're talking breakfast, because it's a meal that often causes the most confusion with our clients. When to eat it, what to have, and what to avoid.
We believe it's the most important meal of the day, and we've all heard the phrase, breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. So we're going to break some myths and dive into some suggestions of what to eat and why for energy and happiness.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Mentors with me, James.
And me, Claire. How are you? It's a bit of a sad day today, isn't it, when we're recording this?
It is, obviously we've got the sad news yesterday evening that Her Majesty the Queen passed away. So yeah, very, very sad. And it's raining today, which seems apt too.
Yeah, it's all a bit befuddled over here, to be honest. We're going to try and make it out because obviously we're in central London, so we're going to try and make it out to some of the ceremonies that are going on today to mark her amazing life. And yeah, it's just all in a. Obviously, she was a ripe old age, but you know she's been in all of our parents' lives for all this time, so we've never known anything different. And just having a woman at the helm as well, it's been quite phenomenal. She's
been a constant for 70 years, and someone I spoke to actually over in Spain this morning said, like, you know, it's the UK in 48 hours you've had a new prime minister and a new monarch. So lots of changes, lots and lots of changes.
And she saw in Liz Truss as well, didn't she? So yeah, so anyway, apart from that, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit now, because we are going to be talking to you today about breakfasts.
Oh, one of my favourite meals of the day.
And actually, our little dog, Lola, her ears just perked up because she knows the word breakfast. She knows the word dinner as well. Look, we're watching her now. Yes, Lola, we are talking about breakfast. So yes, it is actually my favourite meal of the day.
It is. Though we often have exactly the same thing every day, don't we? But I do like to mix it up at the weekends.
I don't. I'm a real creature of habit. / I'm really boring.
But it is a vital meal. It's arguably the most important meal of the day, I would say.
Well, they do say breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So that's why, because our breakfast sets us up for the day and gives us energy.
So we wanted to talk about this because there's often quite a lot of confusion around breakfast. It's quite interesting. If we go back historically, breakfast tended to be a meal that was taken from leftovers. So it tends to be like, we think of it now actually in inverted commas in quite bad terms. There's quite a lot of meat content, bread, stuff like that. But actually we can track the obesity epidemic that we have now in the Western world to the introduction of breakfast cereals early in the early 20th century?
Yeah.
And basically the thinking behind this is that breakfast cereals are high in sugar, which spikes your insulin. And of course, what you first eat in the day sets your insulin bandwidth for the rest of the day. So if we're starting with high sugar food, that means that our insulin is going to have a bigger response, which means we're less efficient at processing our food for energy, means we're more likely to become more insulin resistant and lay down excess energy as fat.
And then the generations that came before us, like James was saying, they would have meat and bread and things like that. I suppose quite a higher fat content and a higher carbohydrate content. But that's because they had more manual jobs, but also they needed more energy in the day for those manual jobs. And like James said, the obesity epidemic actually came around once we stopped eating so much like that and actually started introducing high sugar foods for breakfast. So, you know, we just want to, this podcast came about from a post that I put inside our Facebook community, our closed Facebook community. If you haven't joined that yet, by the way, why not? It's in the show notes. So the link's always in the show notes. So join that Facebook community. It's growing by hundreds of people every week, which is just lovely and phenomenal. And it was a post that I put in there just saying, what do you have for breakfast? And we had so much variety come back. and I'm not saying any of it's wrong, but actually I kind of put that post out there to see if we could offer any advice. And actually I then did a video after that, and the advice that we gave was really, really well received. So we thought, why not do a podcast on it?
Yeah, and it's amazing because I think breakfast is a meal that befuddles people, and that's due to societal pressures as well. It's often a meal that we grab on the run. You know, we get up, we're rushing out the door to take the kids to school or go to work, and it tends to be a slice of toast, which is generally like really processed bread, or a bowl of cereal high in sugar, or, you know, maybe even I did actually see last week, I've got laughers. There was a guy in our gym, and he was walking on the treadmill while he had his coffee, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But he was eating a chocolate croissant while he was walking on the treadmill. So
it's just a wow for me.
It's just a wow.
That is an absolute wow.
I mean, a chocolate croissant is a good treat every now and again, but it's not an ideal thing to start your day with, and probably not while you're walking on the treadmill. But these are the things we do. We try to grab stuff that's fast and convenient. Of course, you know, through the 80s and 90s, we had increasingly sugary cereals, particularly bad for kids. You know, you got your different kind of Cocoa Pops, frosted Rice Krispies, Frosties, Captain Crunchy Nut
they were my favourite.
The old Pop-Tarts came along.
Oh, Pop-Tarts. I know, and also, what also was introduced in the...
I used to love a Pop-Tart.
Kind of like 90s, obviously, was the 90s... I don't know why you're saying it looking at me like that. You're such a child. And anyway, yes, I would, when I first started work, I would just have a latte. And it was that introduction of things like Starbucks and Costa Coffee and things like that, with their sugary syrups and things. So I would have listen to this, I would have a sugar-free hazelnut soya wet latte. I mean, without the froth on top as well. So it was, that was my breakfast. And then when I read some of the comments under that post that I did recently inside our group, some people were saying that that's what they have, like a coffee for breakfast. And I was like, I know how that feels so much, because obviously then I'm spiking my insulin. If you're having a sugary coffee, you're spiking your insulin response, then it's coming down again. Then by lunch, you're kind of what we call hangry, which is hungry and angry, because your sugar levels aren't stabilised, and then you tend to overeat. So there's so much research. One of our first points is, do make sure you're having it, because there is so much research out there that now has looked at people's behaviour, people that do eat breakfast, people that don't. The people that don't eat breakfast typically ends up eating more calories for the rest of the day than those that do have breakfast.
Yeah, exactly that. While we're on that, related to it, is like people often ask, like, what kind of window should I leave overnight with fasting before eating breakfast? And that is, the general consensus is around 14 hours. Why is that? Because our gut biomes work on their own circadian rhythm of around 14 hours. So for kind of mood and your neurotransmitter health, if you'd like, it's a 14-hour window for your gut biomes. If you're looking to manage your body fat, your weight down, then 14 hours is good. But obviously it doesn't work for everyone all the time. So just try and make it as long as you can. But bear in mind, you know, if, like Claire said, if you're having a sugary drink, and then you're thinking, oh, I'm still fasting, I'll have my breakfast later. You're not, because the sugary drink is creating the insulin effect and breaking your fast.
Please be very aware that you're not in a fast if you have any milk in your coffee or tea, if you have a sugary syrup in your coffee, because actually we get asked this a lot, you can have water, obviously, black tea or black coffee, but as soon as you put anything in, it starts the digestive system, so then you're not fasted anymore. And one of the things we would say, you know, it isn't always possible for you to do a 14-hour fast. If you can do a 12-hour fast, that's great, but you can also hack it, as we've done talked about on other podcasts. We can hack that by doing fasted HIIT, so you're kind of going through those glycogen reserves, tapping into body fat, if you can't do a 14-hour fast.
But yeah, as Claire said, absolutely do not miss breakfast. I mean, like, having it later is not missing it. Having your breakfast at like 9 or 10 isn't missing it. Missing it is like the first meal of the day is going to be lunch at 1 o'clock or something. It actually starts to put your body into a bit of a stress response, raise your cortisol, which is going to encourage you to hold on to fat as well. So you're working against what you're trying to achieve there.
If you're training and you're fasting for 16 to 18 hours, it's even worse. You're putting your central nervous system under so much stress, and then actually negating what you might be wanting to do, which is to lose belly fat, because cortisol raises cortisol actually makes you hold on to belly fat. So be careful on that.
Yeah, this is really about planning, right? Because I think for a lot of people, breakfast is quite an unconscious meal, because we're that kind of like, the alarm's gone off, we've thrown our clothes on, we're like running out of the house, we'll just grab whatever. But just start thinking about it more. So have breakfast. Make sure it's not just coffee. Obviously, if you're fasting and it's a black coffee only, then that's cool until you do come to eat. But later on, a latte or a sugar coffee is not going to sustain you. And make sure you're eating enough, right? Like Claire said there, your breakfast should be like your primary meal of the day. We want to front load our calories in a day. So it can be difficult to eat a lot when we're first woken up, but we certainly don't want to be going for like a mini breakfast. Try and get a decent amount of calories in there and a decent amount of all your macros, your carbohydrates, your proteins and fats, so you're sustained through the morning. Often when we have these light breakfasts, that's why then we're reaching for biscuits or popping out for that croissant at 11 o'clock because, it's not lunchtime yet, but I'm really hungry.
We haven't got stabilised blood sugar. And another thing I would say is, like James said, make sure you have got a good blend of protein, carbs and good fat. We are going to give some meal suggestions in a second. But also, do be careful. Another thing that came onto this post was, that I noticed was a lot of people were having a lot of bread. So they were either having bread and jam. And I was like, my goodness, that's
bread and jam.
That's a high
like a sugar sandwich.
I know, it's a high bread. Most bread is very high GI. Most of the bread that we're eating is high GI, so it's got a lot of sugar in it, which means it's going to release its sugars into your blood system very fast and spike your insulin. So that with sugar jam, basically, you are going to literally be as I would say if I had that for breakfast, I'd be as high as a kite and then come smacking back down again, literally within about an hour, and then you just constantly want to crave more sugar, because that's what sugar does. It is highly addictive. So once you've had a bit, especially in the morning, you're going to want to have more and more throughout the day. The best bread is sourdough. And this is the bread that James and I do eat occasionally. Sourdough has less sugar content in it. Do make sure, again, it's good quality sourdough. If you're eating bread, make sure it's good quality, because, again, the stuff that just sits on the shelf is sitting on the shelf for a reason.
Yeah, exactly that. The other types of bread that are also good are alternative grains, so not your wheat-based. So things like spelt bread is good. It's got a slower rate of sugar release. So stuff like that. But yeah, we want to try and move away from the bread, toast and cereals for breakfast. So what are some good things we could be eating? Well, one of them is eggs.
Yes, absolutely. Eggs. So one of the things I absolutely say, eggs are a superfood. Again, they got a bad rap with cholesterol and everything, but they are a superfood. They contain all our amino acids, but they are high in fat. So if you're having, again, a lot of people are saying, I have eggs every morning, a couple of eggs every morning. To a degree, that's okay. But again, if fat loss is your goal, do be careful on that, because they are high in fat. So if you're having a couple of eggs at breakfast, then maybe a few eggs at lunchtime throughout the week, that's going to stack up. So it might be stalling your progress. And we found this with lots of clients as well. So just be careful. And if you want to bulk out eggs, you can always get egg whites. You can either just take it from the egg, or you can actually get some good quality egg whites in the supermarket now. So if you want to bulk it out without having the egg yolk, because it's the egg yolk that contains all the fat, all the goodness as well, to be honest, but all the fat. So just be careful on eggs, but they are a good thing to have for breakfast.
Yeah. Another thing that's nice for breakfast is the avocado, the old green gold. But again, caution with these, right? They are very nutritionally dense, meaning that they pack in a lot of calories, a lot of saturated fat in quite a small amount of volume. So we want to limit our avocado intake to kind of like twice a week maximum, because they are so nutritionally dense.
Yeah, I would say a couple of avocados a week maximum. But again, when we speak to clients, we try and say have a quarter. So have a quarter with your meal, and then just make sure that you're not having more than two. I would say just be careful on even more than two, to be honest.
It looks very, very nice, doesn't it? The old mashed avocado. Carefully, if you're in a restaurant, you get the mashed avocado on toast. You've got no idea, is that one avocado, two that's gone on there?
What's in it? Is there any mayonnaise and stuff like that they've made it with? And then also, on another breakfast suggestion, one of the things that we say, so we give all of our clients and everyone in our community our power shake, our breakfast power shake recipe, right? So before we go on, because we're going to talk about protein powders now, we basically have oats, which are slow releasing. They're lower GI, they're slow releasing, but they give you your carbs for the morning for your energy, because carbs are our primary energy source. So we need those in the morning. And then we'll have things like some berries, which are really good for antioxidants. Again, that kind of fruit is lower GI and actually helps us. There's some research that says that it helps us stabilise our blood sugar levels, as well as the oats. So some berries in there, some protein powder, which we're going to talk about in a second, as well as a tiny little bit of peanut butter. And some water, so we don't put any milk with it at all. We just put water with it, and you might think that doesn't taste very nice, but it tastes delicious.
It's delicious.
It's amazing, and some linseeds and things like that.
And convenient because it's portable. You can just have the container and take it with you, and then sip it at your leisure.
But I don't know if you want to explain why we have that, because it's got the good fats, the good carbs, and the good protein.
Yeah, it's mixed everything. So you want to have a balance in your breakfast of the carbohydrates, the fats, healthy fats, and the protein. Why is that? We want to load our carbohydrates early in the day because all the research says, if we eat carbohydrates late in the day, we'll put on more weight than if we eat them earlier. So this isn't about going low carb. This is about just having your carbs earlier in the day. Healthy fats and protein will trigger the hormone leptin, which gives the body the I'm full signal. So you're less likely to get those hunger cravings. Also combining like the higher GI, like the berries, with medium GI like oats, with the protein and fats, actually slows the release of the sugars into the body as well. So again, helps moderate your insulin response. So it's a great way to set you up. People find they have this shake and then they just don't get hungry again until it is actually lunchtime, which is why it's so good. And it's just a great mix of nutrients.
It's my favourite meal of the day. Even at the weekends, we have all of our clients, like pictures of them at the weekends in our group, still having the protein shake. And on protein powder, again, there's lots and lots of protein powders out on the market. I'm going to boldly say all the protein shakes that come with the not all of them, a lot of them that come with the multi-level marketing ones like Arbonne and Isogenics, they are higher in sugar than other protein powders.
They are.
I would avoid those.
And way more expensive.
So I would go for things like My Protein are the ones we get, but they do good vegan blends.
Bulk powders as well.
Bulk powders.
Good range.
Yeah, and that they've got 2 grams of sugar around 2 grams of sugar per 100 grams.
Depending on the flavour you go for.
Depending on the flavour that you go for. But try, if you can get anything below about 4 grams per 100 grams of sugar, you're doing well with that protein powder. So just really have a look at the ingredients, make sure that it's low sugar.
Yeah, do check the label. You get that carbohydrates of which sugars. I mean, if you're looking at 14 or above, or even 12 or above in a protein powder, just forget it. You don't need that sugar in there.
It's absolutely unnecessary, completely unnecessary.
Another great way to start the day is, of course, yogurt, but specifically like a low-fat, low-sugar. Now, we'll remember when low-fat was all du jour in the 80s, right? It was a thing. And this was like from flawed research, American Heart Foundation. The trouble is, when you take the fat out of something, you take a lot of the flavour out. So when you actually look at low-fat products, a lot of them are actually much higher in sugar than the same product that's a standard fat level. So again, when you're shopping, do check if you've got the standard yogurt and the low fat, just check that the low fat hasn't had its sugar bumped up. So there are brands that are good on this. So the old thick Greek yogurt, I can say this right, faggy one,
that's
is
right,
always
Fage.
good. And you can get that in a 0, a 2 or a 5% version. So the 2 and the 0 are really good. They're what we tend to get. Because remember, we do want a little bit of fat in our diet. But also, like lots of supermarkets have their own versions of Greek yogurt as well. But just make sure you check that sugar content.
And also, talking about the protein powder, if you don't want our shake, then you can actually add protein, because like James said, protein triggers leptin, so it's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer. So if you're just having like a yogurt-based breakfast with some berries in it or some fruit in it, and a bit of granola, we'll talk about that in a second, but granola in it, you're not really getting as much protein as you possibly could in it, even with some nuts and seeds. So what we encourage our clients to do if they're not having our protein shake is to have like half a scoop of protein powder on top of their yogurt, mix it all in, and then they're getting extra protein here.
Yeah, also it makes a great snack during the day. If you get hungry like during the mid-afternoon, this is a great way. It's kind of a lower calorie, high protein. So again, we'll trigger that leptin, give you the I'm full feeling.
And we've already talked about not avoiding carbs. Again, like oats are really, really great. But also granola. This is where we see people come a cropper all the time. So like,
most granola is absolutely loaded with sugar, right?
And most of it really is. And it's only been in recent years that there are some great brands out there on the market that have
the old Country Crisp with the dried strawberries in it and stuff like that.
That isn't what I was about to say.
The honey and nut one.
They're all the terrible
chocolate
ones.
Flake ones.
They're all the terrible ones. But things like Lizzie's low fat, low sugar granola. So that's Lizzie's, wherever you're listening to in the world. I know that we get that in the UK, but that's actually a good granola, not full of lots of sugar and nasties and things. So
M&S also have a good low sugar one.
M&S have a lovely one. So if you want to add that to your yogurt, again, that's fine, but please just remember about quantities, okay? So another thing I would say about breakfast is we are saying have enough of it, but also it's about creating balance, right? Sometimes we'll see clients, God bless them, you know, they'll be saying that they're eating a healthy breakfast, but it's huge. So just be careful. We always give people a hand portion size guide to make sure that their portion sizes are correct. But again, on the granola, just make sure that you're not having too much of it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the final one, fruit. So this is an interesting one.
Everyone asks about
we had
fruit.
a client recently who was just like, you know, it's just every day starting the day with a bowl of fruit. And I'm like, oh, look, listen, fruit does have micronutrients we need, like, you know, vitamins and minerals. It's a great source of fiber, but fruit is high in naturally occurring sugars, fructose. So bearing what in mind I said about insulin, this is not the way you want to be starting the day, just with a bowl of fruit.
And nothing else.
You know, sometimes when you go to hotels, you get the buffet, you get the old fruit salad out of a tin. That's even worse, right? It's in a syrup. Because of all these reasons, it's not going to help you get to your goals. One particular culprit is the banana. So people always like, bananas have this very healthy image, and again, you know, they're not bad. But bananas today have way, way more sugar in than the bananas of 20 years ago. We've bred them to be selectively sweeter, which means they have a higher sugar content than they used to. So I always advise clients to be eating no more than a quarter to a half of banana at most, and not regularly. Like a whole banana is going to pack in like 20, 30 grams of sugar sometimes, which is a lot.
Stick with berries, people. Stick with berries. So actually, you just reminded me about going into a hotel, right? So actually, that's a good... I just want to give some examples of what we would normally eat when we go into a hotel for breakfast. So actually...
Caviar?
Yeah, James, champagne. James was just saying about the fruit that you see in all the syrups and stuff. Just avoid those like the plague. Again, this is a reconditioning of your mind. Oh, it's fruit. It's obviously going to be healthy. No, because it's full of sugar. So actually, something that James and I would go for is a couple of eggs. Be careful on scrambled egg, because again, in hotels they'll put lots of cream butter and stuff like that in it. So we'd get poached eggs if we can. And if there is sourdough bread there, great. I would probably avoid all the kind of white bread and all that sort of stuff, because I know it's going to spike my insulin. So I'll probably have eggs and some lean bacon or ham if it's there. And actually, if there aren't any helpful carbs, like oats and things, I would probably just avoid that altogether. But I'm certainly not going to have a massive slice of white bread.
No. Or, you know, go for the cooked option, because there's sometimes, you know, going for, if you can see some like lean bacon there to go with your eggs, that can be better than filling up with the cereals and things.
Yeah, absolutely. So just it's a re-education of that whole cereal and muesli and all that sort of stuff. Actually, what you're wanting to do is eat things like eggs and ham or fish for breakfast at a buffet like that, because it's going to trigger the leptin, which is your I'm-full hormone, and keep you feeling fuller for longer. You just want to avoid all that sugary stuff. So there we are. We hope that is helpful. If you haven't joined our Midlife Mentors community yet, you're going to find so much like extra info in there. So do join. There's link is in the show notes. Do join, and also our recipe for our power smoothie is in there. And we just also want to tell you that we have our 4-day, our phenomenal...
So excited about this.
4-day mini course starting again on the 19th of September, Monday the 19th of September. This has got incredible results and a wonderful response from the 2 other times we've run this already. Like, it's life-changing. I don't say that lightly. We say that with confidence, because the amount of people that have written to us and shown us the results that they've got just from coming on this free 4-day mini course. And it's all around optimizing hormone health and hacking our metabolism. So it's perfect for us people 40s, 50s and beyond, to really get an understanding of what's going on with our body and start learning strategies, lifestyle strategies that are going to make a massive difference to our body, our mind and our soul, like anxiety, you know, weight gain, all these things that start becoming such a challenge at this time of life. And we can't wait to do this one again. We've got loads of people already signed up to it.
Yeah, link will be in the show notes, so do sign up. It's going to be running live. Listen, it's going to be early in the morning, 7:30, but they're short. But don't worry, the videos stay there all day. So I've had people going, oh, well, I won't make that. It doesn't matter. The videos will stay there all day. The lessons stay there all day. We're going to send out materials to you as well via email.
Yeah, make sure you sign up.
You'll learn loads. Like Claire said, clients have got amazing results just off the back of these 4 days. And we're so excited to be running it again.
Anyway, we are sending you so much love, and thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you, so drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah.